What's good, Elevators? It's your boy Elevation here with another episode of the JBP Elevated, where we speak on the Joe Budden podcast and all of his co-hosts on and off the pod.
The big takeaway from this interview from the perspective of the co-host on the JBP was, where was Ish and Flip? Of course, on the BTS, they mentioned that they weren't going to be there, but there are reasons behind that. Why aren't they there? Is Ish not there because he never has musical topics that pertain to whatever the guest is speaking about or their musical catalog is about? Is it because Flip asks dumbass questions? I don't think the answer is yes to either one of those. Is it because Flip has ties to Jim Jones and Ish is an avid Drake fan? I think it's more correlated to that. Overall, the interview went well. I'm a fan of Clipse. I'm happy that No Malice has made his return. I listened to the album. If I had to give it a rating, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I'm going to listen to it over again to make sure the middle that I thought was filler isn't filler, because out of the 13 tracks, a good 7-8 of them have high replay value, so I gotta give it an 8 out of 10. I appreciate the interview, I appreciate their perspectives, but I thought it was very, very telling that Joe decided to play the ally to Push as opposed to making it controversial. I also thought it was very telling that he decided to put this on the $10 tier on the Patreon as opposed to behind the $25 tier. Considering he said the last time Push was on that show, he brought in the best viewership, or it was the best interview they ever had. I saw a couple of comments saying Dr. Umar, but based off of the numbers, his best interview ever and best show on the Patreon and Joe Budden podcast is when he interviewed Kevin Samuels. So I thought that was very, very telling that he told Push that he was his best interview. Now, I remember them breaking news because that was a very big deal when the story of Adidon dropped. And Drake was going on his promo run saying that he had something in the tug that was deeper than anything that Pusha could ever imagine. And Push went on the JBP and kind of broke some new stuff down. So I thought that was dope. I thought the whole interview was dope. I just thought it was very, very telling that Flip and Ish were missing. I saw a lot of people chiming in on Melissa Ford's presence, but I'm honestly not mad at her presence. I thought I was going to be mad at Ice and how he was close to Clipse already, so he was going to overtake the interview, but I thought Ice did well. Parks! I've been getting on Parks' backside a lot lately, so I feel like I have to give him some credit for this interview. He was in his bag. Whenever he's excited about the music that he's speaking on, you can tell, and this is one of those times because he was in his bag. Him deciphering the different sounds between Pharrell and Chad was a poignant point. The questions that he had in the tuck for Pusha and Malice were good. I overall am just happy with this interview. I'm happy with them putting it on the $10 tier. I just have a couple of questions as to why Ish and Flip weren't there. And going forward, does this change how interviews are produced? Are we going to see 4 out of the 6 cast members? And prior to, or before I get into this, I thought it was weird that Mark was there for half of the interview and then it was just a sudden switch with Imani. This is not the first time this has happened. Last time Mark had an explanation saying that he had to be, or he was a speaker at a graduation. I wonder if the same is in play this time or if there's a running trend, because this is the second time Mark has left in a big interview when everybody knows who Mark Lamont Hill is and what he brings to the JBP. So that's something that we have to keep an eye on going forward. Ish. Thought it was very, very telling when Push, the first thing he said was that I wish Ish was here. To me, that indicates that yes, he does watch the JVP and yes, he does rock with Ish, but he wanted to go on Ish's backside for how he was treating Drake. And if I recall, Ish said that he wasn't very peculiar of the Clipse's music. So it would have been very interesting to see that back and forth. I don't know if Joe was saving Push from the drama or if he was really saving his man's Ish from the drama. Flip. This is not the first time that the whole audience has called for you not to be in an interview. This shit sucks. I'm not going to continue pointing it out because people are pointing out flaws in my approach constantly and persistently, and that shit gets annoying. You already know what you have to do. You're improving in that section, but for those who don't know what I'm talking about, Flip, you have to be more prepared. Questions that you ask have to be on a more mature level. You don't want to ask fifth grader questions to grown adults. You want to be peculiar with the music that you're speaking on. It's okay to not have the musical background, even though you claim you Queenzflip, claim you from the mecca of hip hop. But it's not okay to be ill prepared for any interview. Hopefully this isn't a running trend with Joe where all the big artists and all the big interviews come and you're pushed to the sideline, because you do watch the playback back. So it would be nice if you watched yourself in the midst of all these interviews to see why Joe is trying to push you to the sideline. But overall, like I said, interview was pretty good. It's pretty decent. If I had to rate the interview out of all the interviews that they've given overall, it would probably be high 7 out of 10. But just as of late, it was one of the better interviews. Now, I do have to admit, I couldn't listen to the Joy Taylor interview, all the way through. So I got to run that one back before I make my final decision on that one. But as of this press promo tour that Joe's been on, that he said he would never get on when it comes to media, this has been the best one. But hopefully Joe is receiving payola. I don't know how that works, but I do vividly remember Joe saying that he wasn't going to be a part of these media tours or media runs or press tours or rollouts for these artists. Yet seemingly he's been doing a lot. And given how he speaked on Doshi, I'm curious as to when it started. But as always, like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to the page if you haven't. If you have, you already know how we rocking. You already know what it is. Got a nice episode coming out tomorrow. I'm hoping. And because of how late it is, I'm probably going to release this on Saturday anyway. So let's change tomorrow until later today. But I'll see y'all later today. Y'all be safe out there. Peace.